Hi, everybody. This is Bernard Parsons here at Studio Parsons, and today we're going to do a little bit of masking. We're going to remove background images, and there are a lot of techniques out there on the internet, and some of them are good, some of them are not that great, and they don't really explain the whole entire process. Now, from my experience, I've been doing graphic design and compositing for many, many, many years. And it basically comes down to the fact that there really is not one special thing out there that can do the job for you at a click of a button. And it does require you to actually make some effort in cleaning up the image or separating the image that you want, which right here as an example we have a picture of Iron Man, and I want to remove the background. In video editing, you would use a vector mask that you would have to animate to, if there's no green screen or blue screen available where you can use chroma, you would have to actually use a vector mask and animate that mask to remove the background, separate it, which is a tedious task if you don't have chroma. But for a graphic image like we have here, it's very simple. It's a one layer. And the process here we're going to do, there's a few ways of doing it. And I've seen some ways where people separate the image from the background, and they go in some weird way and create a mask. But we have tools that automatically do that here for us. Down here in the bottom, we do have a mask or add layer mask tool. There is also another way where we can go in here and we can create a clipping mask. So there are a few ways that we can do it, but the main way to do this is you simply have to use your lasso tool here and go around the edges and take your time cutting out the layer and basically removing it. Now, some images right off the bat will start with it under a background, which means that it would be locked. But because I copy and paste this into a new file, our layer is not used as a background, which is good for me because what I like to do is keep this locked. So if I ever need to use this for centering or adjusting certain parameters on an image or graphic, I like to use this background for that. But I also will also duplicate this layer. I never remove this. And a lot of mistakes that I've seen in people is they just remove the background altogether. And you don't want to destroy the image. You want to be able to keep your image intact as much as possible, so that if ever a mistake is made, you can always go back and correct your mistake. Another thing I've seen too is, for example, if this background was all white and you wanted to remove it, another mistake I see is that people will just simply go in, grab the wand tool and click on the white background, and for the most part all the white will get selected. And even if they go into the the select, modify, and feather, and use the feathering so that when they do separate it, it gives them a bit of a edge, it's still, for me, it's not satisfactory. It just doesn't work well enough. And without even the feathering, just selecting the white and deleting it gives you a very bad anti-aliasing pixelated edge within your image. Now, if I go in to my modify and my feather, is by default is 1, but we're not going to use that. If I'm correct, using the wand tool or the select tool here, just by simply deleting it, it has its own by default anti-aliasing. I'm not 100% sure if by default it's using the feather. I know that when I do use the feather, it doesn't work the same way. So simply we're just going to go in and remove this background. Now, like I said, there is no one easy way. There are many plugins out there that says that it will remove the background without having to do this cutting out and creating masks and stuff like that. But in the end, as far as I can my experience is that you end up still having to go back in and touching them up. And if you're going to do a professional quality graphics, and you don't want these artifacts or these errors, your best bet is to go in and do them yourself. Now, it might require you to have a little experience, because first time Photoshop user going in and doing this might not do it correctly. You might be off a little bit, but the good thing about Photoshop is that I find that when I go in and I select, Photoshop does a good job of calculating or determining the borders for you. So even though you might be off a little bit, it does try to do a good job getting it accurate, but it relies on you to go in and correctly cut out the edge. So what I'd like to do is, just to get things started, is I like to obviously right away create a layer mask. And what this is going to do is, if I click on the layer mask, it automatically sets my black and white here, which is my transparency and non-transparent. If I click here again, you see that I have color. If I go back, it's black and white. Now, if you hit X like this allows you to switch in and out. So if I hit L for my lasso tool and just select the section, and by holding, now there's two ways to remove this. You can use Alt Delete or Control Delete, depending on which layer the color is. So if I use Alt Delete, Alt Backspace on my keyboard, it's not Alt Delete, it will remove it, which means that using Alt Backspace is using the top layer here, which is the black. Now, if I see that it's still selected, if I go Control Delete, it's going to bring it back. But when I deselect it, you see here it creates this border edge because it had kind of an issue with the anti-aliasing. So it's kind of leaving you a ghost of what you had done previously. So we're just going to go back here and undo this. And we're going to start by slowly going in and out of the image. Now, it's not necessary. Sometimes mistakes can happen where you can actually double click. Like, say for example, I go like this and I'm coming around. This is not good. I'm just showing you an example. And I'll say, for example, I double click. Okay, this is a problem right now. This is not what I want to select. I want to select the opposite. So instead of trying going in and around doing everything all at once, and then you get to say about here, you double click by accident and it unselects it, you have to start over again. You could hold down your Shift and Control and hit your I to invert it, but you see I only have a small section selected, and if I go ahead and use my Alt Backspace, this is the only section that I have. So it's really not worth it, and I had to kind of start over again. So if you're a first time learner in Photoshop, do bits and pieces so that if you do make an error, you don't have to kind of start all over again. So by hitting down your L again, I'm going to just start going in and kind of just going in and selecting the edges where I think the character of Iron Man's suit would end. Now, sometimes, like I said, it would require you to have a little bit of understanding, a little bit of an eye for this type of thing, so that you can tell where the colors. Like I have to pull away sometimes here too, so that I can see. Oh, okay, it's here. And then I'm going to go in. And the good thing about always having your mask and your background still intact and not destroying your image is that if I need to come back in and just touch up some of the edges, I still have the original background there. It's not removed. It's still available for me to make sure that my edges are clean. And that's one thing you have to kind of learn in Photoshop, is that it's not always a good idea to just simply remove everything because you feel that it's not needed there. That's why we use masking to hide these things, so that if you want it invisible, we make it invisible, but we do not destroy the main image, so we can always go back to fix this. So as you can see, I'm just coming up around here. I'm just going to just go far as up to the edge of the shoulder here, and then I'm going to zoom out, and I'm just going to maybe just do something like this so I can get most of the background out here, and double click so that you connect it. Alt backspace to remove the background, and then hold on your Control D to deselect. Now if you want to see if this is a true transparency, just hide the background, and you can see that the checker here represents the transparency of the background. So I'm just going to back in and zoom in again, and I'm going to continue with this, and I'll speed up the process so that you don't have to sit here and watch me do the entire thing, but I hope that you got the idea of it. And if you have any questions on more about masking, I will be showing more techniques on different ways of how to mask in Photoshop. See, this is what happens sometimes, so I know I can't really fix that. I have to go back, and because I'm using a mouse, sometimes the mouse can be a little cumbersome compared to using, say, something like a Wacom tablet, which most professional industries use today, because they act a little bit more like a designing tool. But I've been working with a mouse for many years, so I have to say that I've kind of gotten used to it for this type of thing, and it's more natural for me to use a mouse for this type of graphic design or modification to an image. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish this off, and you can watch me as I speed up here. Alright, so here is the final masking that we did, or that I did to show you here. So if you want to kind of take a look at the masking, all we have to do is go into the channels, and you see that the mask that we created is right here. So all I have to do is just remove all these, and our mask is represented by black. Normally, the red, when you create another way of a clipping mask, usually it's in red. But for this type of mask, it's using a black or a white to separate the colors. Now, it's also in RGB, red, green, and blue, or you can use CMYK. I like using RGB because it's a more simpler color palette to be used, and CMYK is usually used for printing because of the 4-color process. Here we're only dealing with 3 colors, so we just turn on all of our and as you can see, when all the colors are on, and also your mask, the mask comes out as red. So that's how you see your channel here is representing the masking. So now that we have this done, we can now duplicate this layer again, and I just usually do it like this. I just duplicate another layer. I know that there's another way of flattening it. It's in the hotkeys, and we'll discuss that another time. So now I have one with my mask, and I have one that has flattened. So if I want to kind of lighten up the edges, depending on the background that I want, well, we'll just go in, for example, and get a cloud texture. Okay, so let's say, for example, we want something like this, and we paste it here in the background. It's just a little too small. Let's see if we can get cloud textures large here. And okay, well, that's a little too small for some reason. It's showing up here. 500 by 500. Okay. Trying to find something a little bit better. Here we go. We'll use this one. Boom. And we'll get rid of this later. Now I'm just gonna zoom out. I'm gonna see. Just kind of tighten it up a bit, so we make the texture of the cloud a little bit better. Now, as you can see here, everything looks good, but the thing is, the background and the character himself in the foreground just don't seem to mix very well. So I know that I'm going off here with the a little bit, but I'm going to leave it from here, and we'll work on another video where we talk about adjusting doing the color adjustments. But what I wanted to kind of just show you very quickly is that you can also use an effect here, which is something like an inner, not an inner shadow, but an inner glow. If I can see it here, outer glow, inner glow. Okay. Here you can kind of help a bit with the edges to make the edges a little bit more softer to blend in. Now we can go in and adjust these colors to make them a little bit more darker here, like this, and we'll just increase the range a little bit, the softness a little bit more, and if you want to see the difference, it's like this. So I like to soften up the edges a little bit sometimes, but it depends on the background as well. So that's it for this tutorial. This is a very simple tutorial on masking, but it does require a little bit of work to go in and work on removing a background. Like I said, there isn't really no simple way of doing it. It does require a little bit of work, but to achieve the best result, this is how you would do it, in my opinion. And like I said, I've been doing this for quite a while, and there's really no workarounds to this. So this is Bernie P, thanking you for watching my video here on Studio Parsons, my Studio Parsons channel. And if you'd like to see more, by all means, let me know in the comments below, or let me know what you think of my video. And if you'd like to see other things in Photoshop, which will there be much more coming in the near future, just let me know what you would like to see, what it is that you would like to use Photoshop for, and things that you may be having trouble with. Maybe I can help you out. So again, thank you very much. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe. Click that subscribe button. And also, if you like my tutorials, by all means, just click the like button and share it with your friends. That would be very much appreciated. So until next time, this is Bernard Parsons signing out for Studio Parsons, and thank you for watching. Come back again soon.